All right, ladies and gents, strap yourself in for a nice long buy, hold, risk it, sell. We're going to get into some strategy first. And I think that's the smartest thing before you look at who you're potentially going to be buying, because next week especially is the dogs buy. And I know a lot of us have anywhere between sort of 2 to 5 even dogs coming into this week. And so, having 5 dogs, that means you'll play 16 next week, right? So you've got 6 trades over the next 2 weeks. Do you want to use all of them to get rid of a couple? Do you have any sort of dead wood in your side that is a good chance of not being in the team or their team next week? And or are they a chance of being on the bench like a Blaze Talangi or a Joe Chan next week, and you don't really want to play them in your 17? So let's discuss that strategy first before we get into the players, and I've got a lot of them in there as well. And if I haven't got into doing the timestamps for all the players and where we talk about them, please get in the comments and let me know. Hopefully I usually post it and then get in and do the timestamp. So if it's not there by sort of 20 minutes or something like that, send a message in there. That would be very, very helpful, just as a reminder to get in and pull my finger out and do them. That's for sure. So as I said, with the dogs, you want to be looking at how many you've got. And I've got 4 currently, and I'm looking to trade out Drew Hutchison for that reason this week. And if you've got an example here, Drew Hutchison, Danny Levi, both I think are sells coming into this week. I do think that selling Hutchison is probably the play, because very unlikely you'll have to play Hutcho this week, and I think you've got a little bit more confidence, I would anyway, in a Jamin Salmon on the edge there playing 80 minutes, unless he gets moved to the centres or something like that this week. And then even Hughes, like if he's getting 40 minutes through the middle, I think he can get closer to a 35 to 40 odd there pretty comfortably. Whereas Hutcho, yes, this was his lowest one of the year, but he could be anywhere between this sort of 19 and a 30 odd to 40. Against the Knights is going to be a lot easier. But I do think that Levi, yes, he had a poor score this week. He could go back to a 20 odd or so next week, and with his break even being in that position, it's not going to hurt you too much in terms of your cash, your losses there. Where Hutcho, if he goes to 19 or 20 this week and he's almost 70k more expensive, you're going to see a bigger drop from Drew in that one there. So that's something to look at. Obviously, holding Talangi this week works out fine. He's also easily a sell. And we're also going to look at Piakura as well at 361. There's still no sign of him coming back, so it sounds like it's longer than what NRL Physio was told. No one's really said anything. It said it was going to be about a 4-week injury, but he's not even, he's hardly even training with the main team at the moment. And Payne Haas has kind of come into main team training a little bit, and Piakura is still kind of off on the side doing his thing and stuff. So look, if he might not even be back next week as well. So that's something you got to note with your dogs, is that the Talangis, the Chans, Piakuras, these guys, they're unlikely to feature. We're hoping the Piakura does, but if he doesn't, or if you think he's not going to, then selling this week could be fine as well. I understand that. If you need to use him to make certain trades, then that could work out for your sides for sure. So that's all I really wanted to focus on at the start of this video, was getting you guys set up for strategy heading into next week especially. Then we've got Eels the following week, and then we've got I have 3 with Gutho, Lussick, and Talangi there. And then we've got sort of anywhere between 2 and 4 or 5 as well the following week, with the Raiders having their bye in round 10. So the next 3 weeks are super important to get things correct. And obviously not trying to use too many trades at the same time, given most of us have kind of max traded so far. Thankfully, max trading means 2s a week, not 3s, because if it was 3, we'd be in a fair bit of trouble heading into next week. So that's what I wanted to focus on. Obviously, there's a few guys that are purchases this week, and we'll get into them now. So, who's hot, who's not? I've just gone through the first sort of 10 here in the who's hot list. I'm going to speak about straight out, and we've got some big numbers there with Kale Iro at 7.9 up, Crichton's at 7.69. So the 2 guys we were talking about as being good buys last week have now, still stayed at the top of this list. Xavier Willison at 4.3 is pretty interesting. Chan's at 4.29. Chevy Stewart at 3.28. After his 26. So there's that. And then we get into Sean Johnson at 2.18, and then we go a little bit lower underneath 2% gains from there. So let's kick off with Kale. Obviously, there's still some worries around his position, and people are saying, when the forwards come back, there's a chance that he loses that spot, and it's hard to have Talakai in the forwards there. But this is an issue they've had, and sometimes do have, is that they have 4 forwards on the bench, and then if an injury happens, they're absolutely cooked, and they're playing guys out of position. they're playing middle forwards on an edge or middle forwards in the centres, and we know how that's worked out for certain teams this year. So there's a good chance that even with those guys back, if Kale Iro plays good in general, I think he's going to keep the spot. If he plays all right, there's a chance he loses a spot if they think that they just want their normal 4-forward bench. Like, that's a chance. But there's also a chance that they just need him to play that position as a dual utility type of guy on the bench, and Kale keeps his spot. And I do think if Kale keeps his spot, then that's 3 scores now 40 plus for him in first grade, which means that, let's just say it is a 40 average for him, then he's priced at 23 and he's got well into 200k to make, right? And I think that's very hard to miss out on. He's very highly owned, so if you do miss out on him, you're going to get pretty cooked, to be honest with you there. That couple 100k in gains, a 40 average in the centres for a 318k price point, I think is too hard to pass up, to be honest with you there. So he's the guy that we're going to want in our sides, and I'll be getting him in my team, if that helps. Angus Crichton, bought him last week myself, and I do think that he's a terrific purchase this week. Is missing some tackles, but 42 tackles made, 187 in base there, so 60 in base before negatives and before tackle breaks and offloads as well. To have a line break in that one too, he's great. I think he's going to get at least a 50 average here and has upside into the 60 range, and priced at 34, he's a must-have in my opinion. Even if he was to play 65 minutes, we know that he can score incredibly well in that time. So Crichton, lock him in your sides this week, make it happen. You've got guys like Blore and that are a similar price, a bit more expensive, and we'll speak about them a little bit later. Xavier Willison, a 366, so still a negative break even for him this week with a 35, a 32, and a 56 across his 3 games that he has played this year. So, averaging that out to a sort of a high 30s average in minutes, which is cool, and averaging 41. So over a point a minute, which is great for him in season 2024. He looks like a great player, so 41 in 39 minutes for him. I do expect that to continue this week, about a 40-minute effort, and then I think potentially he sticks around somewhere in the mid-30s from there. So if that's the case, and he goes back to a mid-30s, let's just say that's the play, 35 minutes, and he can keep up, let's just say a 1 ppm or 0.9 if you wanted to go a little bit lower than that, then that's still a 33 average, let's say. At 0.9, 0.95, something like that. With 35 minutes, it's a 33 average, and that's 7 points of value at a minimum. And then if you can score a try, or if you can get closer to 40 minutes, then you're getting closer to 38, 40 points. So I still see Xavier as a really good purchase this week at 366 if you're needing a mid or an edge. Obviously, with Payne Haas coming back, that's where I'm talking about it. But I do think even if he does come back, when he comes back, Xavier can go into that 35-minute role. And really, he has to be ahead of guys like Fletcher Baker, to be honest with you there. Probably even ahead of guys like Kobe Hetherington, who I know they've trusted a bit, but in what world does Xavier Willison get dropped from this team? I just don't see it happening, to be honest with you. And if it does, then that would be the big worry here. But otherwise, I do think he's got money to be made, and he's at a mid and edge dual, which is exactly what a lot of teams need out there. So that's super helpful, and it's something that I suppose I could look at myself. I was potentially getting Corey Waddell, but is Willison the buy? He's going to keep his spot on the side. Does he actually? He obviously doesn't score as good as Corey, but it would allow me to make a third trade to get maybe Shawnee Blore. So Xavier, a good purchase this week. Chance is 630k. He's just really defying physics at the moment. Last year, in terms of meters gained, is probably what we want to look at here. 2023 in a 73.5 minute effort. Let's just go right over 70 there to make it easy for you. In 80 minutes a game, he averaged 193 meters gained. And then this year he's at 304 across the 2 games. So that's massive. And we know that tackle breaks and offloads come off the back of that, which is super helpful. So 69 last week was absolutely incredible. And I can understand you want to buy him. He's got Dragons, he's got Titans, Knights into Roosters there. And has buys in 13, 19. So it's all solid across the board. And he's got a little bit of money to be made. But is he going to be a 50s guy this year? I'm not sure. If you think he's going to be a 50-point scorer, then he's got 70k or so to make. Probably does score some 40s in there as well. If that's the case, he goes down to a 50 average. If you think he's going to be a 60-point guy, then he's obviously a must-have. But I don't think that's the case. I do think that his run meters have been a little bit of an anomaly. he'll get into good spots and he'll continue to do good things, but yeah, can he get 60s long term? That's the big question there. Chevy, 239, so super cheap, and I understand people are getting him for that cash grab. He has a buy in round 10, a buy in round 14, buy in round 19. Are you going to keep him that long? That could be, the case. He looked good on the weekend for 205 run meters, 6 kick defusals, no tackle breaks. Had a turnover tackle as well and still got 26. So 200 meters run, kick defusals, and turnover tackles. That's 30 in itself, and then he had negatives on top of that. So there's that. Can he get those big run meters every game? I think that's really, a good sign that if he can get those run meters and just that work ethic there, out of trouble, then he'll be great. He's obviously a young kid. There are going to be games where he does have some errors, like he had no errors, no penalties in this one. That might come. He might not have a turnover tackle in some games. So is he going to be like a 25 to 30 guy? I think there's a decent chance that's the case. And he plays the Broncos this week, comes up against Sharkies into Manly before the bye. It's not a very easy run, to be honest with you, there for him. And I understand if you're going for him for the cheap potential buy this week, but he's no must-have in my opinion. Yeah, up to you. Shaun Johnson, 855. So he's just absolutely crushing it. Since he's got over his little bit of a niggle, he's gone 2 tries and 1 try in the last 2 weeks with 2 assists and also 1 assist last week too. So absolutely banging weeks with goal kicks to boot, and has also kicked over 600 meters in each of the last 4 games. So we know his base is there. He's scoring attacking points as well. He'll kick a bunch of goals this week against the Dragons. He's a really good purchase this week, guys. If you're looking at him instead of Nicho Hynes, I completely understand. I wouldn't push you away from Johnson to go exactly to Hynes, given the way that they're spreading the work between Trindle and Hynesi there. So Shaun Johnson, a great purchase. I've got him in the Supercoach team. Isha's got him in her fantasy team, so I'm at least invested in some way. But if you wanted to grab him, I think it's a great option for you. That's for sure. James Schiller, he's still on the list as 1.7% of teams buying him. Just continues to score tries. He's got 5 tries in 3 games there with 5 line breaks and a try assist as well. So all things are coming up James Schiller at the moment. If you didn't get him last week, there's no way you can get him this week, in my opinion. Coming up against Broncos, Sharkies, and then Manly, I definitely would pick Stewart before I would pick James Schiller. So that's the worry with Jamesy at the moment, is just that he's up in price now. Yes, he still has a low break even, but I think he can get a 20 or something this week without tries. Shawnee, big boy Blore at 564. So he's in a really, really nice position right now, old Shawnee, in that he's got a lower break even, just under 20 there. And I think that he's going to get closer to that 80 minutes. Like, it's 65 at minimum, in my opinion. And I do think that 45 is where he's going to be at. Anywhere between 45 and 55 if he gets 60 odd minutes compared to that of 80. He's priced at 40, so that's somewhere between 5 and 10 points of value. And a guy that's not going to be in Origin, yes, he does miss 13, but he plays 14, 16, 17. He's got a nice little run coming up as well. Roosters on that right-hand side against Snap Butcher. So he's not going to run into too much trouble down that side, apart from missed tackles on maybe Joey Manu this week. But then into the Bunnies, Titans, and then the right side of Sharkies there, which seems solid at the moment with Ramey and Hynes and Nickera. But I suppose you're not too worried about that. He works hard in defense. He's only missed 4 tackles out of the 90, just under 90, so 89. So 89 makes for 4 misses is great. And running for 80 odd, 70 odd run meters is good. So anywhere there, he's going to get tackle breaks. He's going to get offloads. And it's a terrific purchase coming into this week. But I'd definitely go Crichton before you go Blore. And that is all. Carpus Paul, 650k there. We're coming to this week. So people are asking about him, obviously around that price point at 650, priced at 46. There's obviously still some money to make, right? And he had a great week this week with 66, coming off 61, a 53, a 47, and 66. So 4 really good scores in a row since he's in a 40 in the first week, but he had 28 tackles, which is pretty low. The last 4 weeks he's gone 4 tackle breaks, 2 3. He's getting offloads, at least 1 in each game, and hitting over 100 meters gained. So tackles in the 30 odds. With that, with some attacking stats, he should be like a 50-point scorer at minimum. So across that. With a good one last week, he might have the 47, stuff like that. So overall, I think around a 50 to 53 point scorer, and that's 5 or so points of value for a guy that is not going to play Origin. Has a pretty decent little schedule there, only missing one game across all of the major important bye period games: 13, 14, 17, 18, 16, 17, 19, 20. And yes, he misses round 12, but I don't think you have too many nights for it to be a problem, apart from him, and then Ponga would be the play. So still a good purchase in the edge. Would you go Blore over him? Probably at the price, to be honest with you. I think you'd go Blore, almost 100k difference, so you could use that on a different player. But yeah, still a great purchase this week. For those that don't own Galvin, I think he's a terrific buy. You need to get him in your side, in my opinion. Even if it is against Penrith, like, he's going to defend his way to glory. He's only missed the one tackle now. After making 68, he's missed one. So that's going to be great. That's not going to cause him too many issues against the Panthers, with his defense being great. And the odd tackle break, the odd offload, you'll run some footy. He'll get involved in the kick meters as well a little bit. So Galvin at 405k. Expect sort of a 30 odd this week against the Panthers, in my opinion, but that still makes him a lot of money. And then it gets a little bit easier up against Broncos, the Dogs, Newcastle, Dolphins, into Cowboys. So I think if you miss out on him now, you'll probably be closer to 500k over the next few weeks, and then you're like, oh, I'll buy him now, but yeah, you've missed out on all that cash gains. And I still think good scores. I'll be playing him this week, and I back him in to do well. Corey, big boy Waddell, 425. So it's fairly cheap, isn't it, for a dual position Manly player there who has a nice run over the next few weeks, obviously with Titans, Para, Canberra, Dolphins. Like, he could definitely score some tries in that period as well. So, I had him over, let's just say it was over 60 minutes is what we want to be looking at with him in the second row. There's a lot of games there. So that covers sort of 20 odd games back down to 2020 stats, and 42.4 average in 77 minutes, with a few games in the 60s. And you do see when he does play 60s, there's a 33, a 34 in 2022. 70-minute games, he can get a 73 with a try. He can get a 36. He's a little bit all over the shop, to be honest with you there, because he has missed tackles. So he makes 33, he misses 3.4. He has some good run meters. He has 0.7 offloads a game. He has 1.2 tackle breaks a game. But you do see here that a lot of those no tackle break games are sort of in back into 2021, 2022. And he has obviously a couple of decent games this year. He had the interchange game last week, which we have a look at here, with a 48. So that included a line break assist, and a try. He's got he can be a little bit all over the shop for sure, Corey Waddell. So I could see a reason for you potentially not looking to grab him. Like, he's not perfect by any stretch, given there's lots of missed tackles there. But I do expect him to be playing some really good minutes over the next bunch of weeks. The dual position is super helpful. He can get you into really good position over the next few weeks with your mids. Obviously, with the Dogs players, is something you really need to focus on, is how many, if you're using Hughes and Salmon in mid or edge, make sure you have cover for next week in the mid and the edge position as well. And Corey could be that guy to cover it. But Willison could also do that job as well for 60k less, and may help you in my case, may help me in my case, to potentially get a Shawnee Blore and do some good things on that front. So there's definitely plenty of options that you could go for. And Waddell's one of those guys. He's not going to, if he gets a good score this week, he's going to get away from you in price and get to 460, 470. But if he goes a 30 odd, then you probably feel like you've dodged a bullet there at 425. It's not there's not much that can go wrong basically with him. But if he gets you a bunch of 30s and plays 65 minutes, then that would be the frustrating thing. But there's obviously a good chance that he does come out and play good minutes and get you 42 as that average, with some good games like in the 50s, with some lower games in the 30s there for sure. A very volatile player, but a good one to have a look at. Tommy Chester, my man. I love him so much, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get him in my side. Scored a try last week, got 2 line breaks. Defensively, missed a few more tackles, but still running over 100 meters, which is good. Had an error, had 3 missed tackles, and still got 44. So that's good signs for his base stats there, with sort of netting anywhere between 6 and 10 points in tackles there over the last 2 weeks, and then over 100 meters gained with the odd 3 or 4 tackle breaks is going to get him anywhere near sort of the 28 to 32 mark in base, with potential for try assists or tries over over the weeks to come. But they do have Sharkies into Penrith over the next few weeks, so he's no slam dunk by any means, but I do think that he can do well for your sides if you decide to bring him in. Hynes is the interesting one now, guys. At 911k, there's obviously a few stresses on where he's at the moment. He's got 350s and 2 mid-70s scores in the 5 games that he's played this year. We know that he has lots of potential to do really well, but if you're looking at him there, he's got 3 try assists in 5 games, no tries at the moment. Only a couple of turnover tackles as well, which we normally see. A lot of these guys that are making sort of 20-odd tackles to get in positions where they're getting more turnover tackles as well. The kick meters are down. Last week was the worst of the 5 games that he's played, and that's frustrating given I bought him last week. But we do expect him to get back into the 300s plus. He had 444 in round 1, 519 in round 2. I'm not sure if they've changed some tactics there coming out of the bye. Could be the play, but he could also just get back to some really good scoring this week. Obviously, he's missing a bunch of tackles. He's making a lot, but he's missing a bunch too. Hopefully he can get back to sort of that 0 missed tackles in round 1. Didn't have any offloads last week. He had 1 tackle break. He's such a high tackle break man, and he's only got 5 as well for the year. So it's just such a low year for him, and he's still averaging 61. So that's where you can look at it and go, wow, there's every chance that he can get back to getting some tackle breaks, getting the odd try assist, kicking a little bit better. And the odd offload and the like would be super helpful as well, which he's had in previous games. It could all come back to him this week, and he goes 80, and everyone's like, oh, why didn't I buy him? I bought SJ, went back to earth with a 50. It could definitely happen, but I can definitely understand why you might look to other options as well. And Dylan Brown is one of those guys at 683. He's obviously priced at the 49 now, and people are like, oh, well, Moses comes back in like a month, so then it'd be a waste. Well, look, that can be the case, but he's also scored well in many games with Moses in the side. He was getting mid-40s to high 40s in the first bunch of weeks. Moses was still in this team the whole time. Then he went 76, 75, 41, 78, and 65 with Moses in the squad. So you can look at that and go, well, yeah, so that probably doesn't matter too much. So sometimes it does. Obviously, kick meters-wise, it's going to matter. Given the last 2 weeks, he's really upped that number, especially 377 in round 5. But in that game, he only scored 48. Whereas in last game, he got 193 kick meters and got a 70. So he's an awesome guy to have a look at this week. He's gone 61, 48, and 70 without at halfback this year without Moses, and that gives him an average of 59.7. So if you were to get that over the next month at minimum, and then he goes back to a 50 average, then happy days. Obviously, round 9 is the bye is in there. But Dolphins this week, I have a feeling he's the guy to go nuts this week. So that's my advice to you there. If you want to go cheaper in the half position, then you can definitely do that there. Kalyn Ponga, 774. So very expensive now at 55 is the price. Looks like he'll be fine for this week. There's a good chance that he won't goal kick. Barry Tui came out and said that it's doubtful that he goal kicks this week. So if you're a non-owner like myself and finding it very difficult to get to him, if you can't get to him, at 55, his price now, you're paying a lot of money to get those 60s, and he's done that 3 weeks in a row, 72, 67, and 69. Incredible scores. Look, he won't be able to do that every week, but we did see last year he was able to go 50-odd, 80, 90, 70. He did it on a super regular basis and was absolutely dominating. But if he's not goal kicking this week, that's going to take a few points away from him and means he's not a clear must-have, especially with the Dogs playing pretty well last week as well. Then into Dolphins, the Warriors, but then Tigers, Titans, bye into Dogs if he doesn't make Origin. It's very hard not owning him at this point. If you want to get him, lock it in. I still, if you can do it easily, get him in your side. Wade Egan, he's been brought in by a decent chunk of people this week, and he's coming off a couple of good games as well. 61 into 51 into 71. And big tackle numbers last week was where his bread was buttered, which was good. Good to see him have 3 games in a row on the park. Hopefully that continues here, and he'll make some money the next few weeks, potentially get some try assists or tries against Dragons, Titans, Newcastle into Roosters. So I wouldn't push you away if you were looking to get Wade Egan, but I'm not going to push you into him as well, because he has these little stretches of games where he gets 50 odds to 60, but then has some type of injury or got some type of issue there. And this is kind of the highest that he's ever gotten to be honest with you there. He got to 694 last year, but he absolutely crushed it at the beginning of the season, like he has done here, 60s and 50s. Got up to that price of 690, which he's still a little bit away from. And then, he has injuries or something happens to him there. So definitely a risk, but a risk that could be worth taking. Manu, dual position, 711K. Very expensive now, obviously. Price of 51. Back to centers. We saw he's had a couple of big weeks there in 61 and he spent half that game, 58. The Dogs at fullback was 75, a 46 and a 61 with a 12 at center. He's playing really well this year. It could just be like a season where he just plays well the entire year. He's just signed for Japanese rugby, so he'll be looking to go out on a bang for sure. He's got that negotiations done now and he can just focus on footy. And I wonder if now he's signed that maybe he drops off, and he was playing really well, so he could sign a bigger deal. Who knows on that one. But last week was, I think, the week to get him. It's hard to buy him now at 711, priced at the 51, in my opinion. But he could still continue to do it well. All right, Cam Mciness, he's gone up in price now, 727, 3 good weeks in a row now, 51, 70, and 58. With a few of their forwards coming back, I do expect him to be somewhere around the 55-minute mark. And they've got a lot of different bodies coming back, and we saw over the first few weeks, it was a 40-minute and a 48. So it is a worry if you're looking to buy him this week. Just the fact that with those guys coming back, it was either hold him through if you started with him, or buy him last week, in my opinion. 727 now, he's got to score that 52 to hold his price. And I definitely think he can do that, but does he get the 55 minutes and keep that really nice PPM of 0.8 or 0.9 and hold that 52? And if he does, here's a really nice run all the way through until round 16. So there's a little bit of noise around him potentially making Origin too, so keep that in mind when you're looking at him. Looking into a few of the sells now. Cam Murray, or the sells or the holds, I think he's a hold or a sell. If you're just happy to get him all the way through to round 13, then not a problem. Just hold on to him. If you want to use him to go to a top tier guy in whatever position, just because he's got the higher break even, he's got the knee issue, and you're going to sell him in round 13 anyway. And the reason we're selling him in round 13, guys, is because he would miss 13, 16, 19, and at least 17 as well. So that's 4 of those 7 games there. And then potentially plays lesser minutes in round 14 after backing up from Origin, and round 20 as well. So that's kind of the theory as to why people were looking to sell him, if you weren't sure on that. Jolliffe at 595. He's priced at 43 now, so it's getting a fairly expensive there. Obviously a 49 and a 41 over the last, those 2 weeks before. He's got 2 tries in that last 3 weeks too. So obviously he's a guy that's working hard, finding the line, making good run meters over 100. Tackling last week was crazy. Played 67 minutes with their extended game time. Look, he could definitely be a guy that if he can get those tackle numbers up to about 40, then with 100 meters gained, there's 50 in base with a couple of tackle breaks, the odd missed tackles there. He could be like a 50 scorer, or he can be like a high 40 scorer. And I was looking at him as a purchase last week and didn't pull the trigger, obviously. But he could definitely be a guy that could help out your situation. Definitely. It's just if you want to grab him at 595 now, or you want to go for someone in a different price point, maybe that has done it before. You want to go up a bit higher? Do you want to go down to Blore? Like, I think him and Jolliffe and Blore are a similar situation right now, with they can both probably average 50, but there's a little bit of risk on minutes and the like there. Piakura now, 676 for him. He's priced at 48, and obviously a lower score for him on the weekend, and the 2 weeks prior since people brought him in, he's gone 38, 36, 44. It's not great on that front. He was carrying a bit of an injury in those 2 games before. He looked to be a bit better with the injury front, obviously kicking for goals in round 6 on the weekend. So I think with that in his average now, sorry, it was up early this morning. I had a 5 something wake up, but 676. I think he's a hold this week. It is against Panthers though, so I do understand if you were looking to sell him, but if you started with him, I don't see there being a big reason to sell. He's averaging 50 for the year. He could definitely have those games like round 1 and round 2 and 3 where he could come out and do really well. The thing to note here is that Yes, he copped a bit of an issue in round 4, but those couple of early rounds when Galvin played round 2 and 3 is when he scored his best, and Galvin's back now. So that's something to note, obviously, in this one here, that Appy could go back to some good scoring there for sure. Drew Hutchison, I think that he's an easy one to sell this week, 450k. Although if you look at this scoring, he's got a 29, his lowest score outside of this 19. So he could definitely bounce back this week, but I do think coming into next week that he's a sell anyway. So yeah, you can hold against Newcastle and he could do fairly well. That left side of Ponga and the like could dominate him a little bit. But either way, I think hold or sell is completely fine with Drew. Not much else to say. Similar situation with Flegler. He's obviously fairly expensive at 614, and I am worried about the shoulder. I know physio thinks there's something else going on. It's obviously not the minor AC joint injury. Otherwise, he would have played on the weekend, and he definitely would have played this weekend. He could have played last weekend, definitely this weekend. So it sounds like it's a little bit worse. It might be something more than just the point of the shoulder. It could be also point of the collarbone or whatever that is, the AC joint is there. It could just be a little bit more shoulder related is what he's thinking. And with him going off to Origin and missing round 14 and round 18 as well with their bye schedule, I think he's getting closer to a sell, whether it's this week, whether you hold him for a bunch of those games and he kind of does well for you, or he carries that and he's having a bit of an issue really dominating in contact as well. So there's a few things with Flegler to hold or sell, in my opinion. Max Plath, with Flegler having some issues there, could definitely be Max Plath's season. He obviously had the sin bin last game, which copped him a 36. So I do expect him to be around the 50-minute mark with sort of a mid-40s score to a low 40 score. So probably 5 to 8 points of value for Plath. Now that he has half and mid dual, he's definitely someone at that price point that you can have a look at, and I think he can do a really good job for you over the next bunch of weeks, and plays around 13, can cover half and mid, which is great, and obviously misses 14 and 18, but plays around 16, 19, 16, 17, 19, 20. So he's a really cool one that you could slot in and do a good job, that's for sure, but he's not a clear must-have or anything like that. Nat Butcher, 682 for him. Got a 48 last week, which did well. He played 2 less minutes with Satilli him going off for Satilli for those 2 minutes. And we know that he can have these games there. He's not really, it looks like he's not going to get the meters gained. So it's going to be very hard for him to get offloads and tackle breaks. But tackle numbers are very high over the last 2 weeks, which is exactly what you want. And need for him to get that 50 average. And then the odd game there, he can go big tackle numbers, or he can get the odd tackle break or offload and do good things for you. And he'll be fine. But I do think there's other options you could pick, like Blore and the like, at a much cheaper price for sure. Bo Fermor is the next one on the list at 594. He's in a position that I think that he's much improved, to be honest with you there. He's got that 48 with a try, a couple of line break assists in round 5, but he did get moved to the center position very early in that game, and he was able to get some run meters which was good, some tackle breaks, but tackle numbers were down massive. We saw on the weekend, he looked like he was back to some of his full fitness, and he was on sort of 50 odd tackles before, the extra 10 minutes as well, and he was able to get good base numbers with the tackles. He, even with a couple of minutes to go, like he played almost the full night. He'd played the full 88 minutes or whatever by this point, and he was in around the ruck trying to help them win the game and get him in good position. So I think he's back to some of his best, and priced at 42. I do think you can expect a 50 average from him going forward, and could be a decent buy for your side. But again, you could also just select Blore at the cheaper price. Jesse Arthars, he's a hold or sell at the moment. People are asking me about him, like dual position, that is what makes him a little bit of a better potential hold. But obviously round 13 and 16 they miss, and that could help hurt you on that one. I do come up against a few teams that he could score some tries against. He butchered one on the weekend, dropping it over the line, so he could have come out and got a 35 to 40 just with that try alone. He scored 4 tries across the season so far, and you could look at that and go, well, yeah, he's averaging 31.7 with 4 tries already, and 4 try assists. So yeah, is he going to come out and hit a 30 odd average, and when he's already priced at 30 and has a break even at 30? So he's easily a sell now based on those metrics, but you could hold if you want to as well. Dave Fifita at 807. He's priced at the 58 now, so a bit of a drop for him. Break even at mid 60s. The main thing with him is you could buy him this week and expect good scores, right? He's averaging 55 off the interchange. And if he gets back to 80 minutes in that second row, which he did in round 5, you could see definitely a 60 score from him. Potentially even more if he was able to get a try, which he hasn't got yet. He's got 1 line break, 2 line break assists in that 3 games. So if he comes out and gets that try, you could see 70s from him and him be extremely worth it in your side. And if you're not too stressed about the sort of, if you're a head-to-head player especially, I think he's a terrific buy this week. You get the best edge gun apart from him and Hopgood in the game. And that'll be awesome. But I do think Hopgood's a terrific purchase then if you're in that same boat and not stressed too much about that period. With Cleary, guys, it does seem like he'll be back next week. So if you've held this far, I think you need to hold one more. He comes up against the Cowboys, the Bunnies, the Dogs over the next 3, if that's the case. Obviously frustrating missing the Tigers this one. But the next 3 run, obviously leading up to Origin, is pretty good for him, especially that round 8, 9, 10 clashes. And it'll be super frustrating if you sell him. It's super frustrating right now, but if you sell him and then he comes out and goes bonkers in those upcoming weeks, then you'll be pretty frustrated, in my opinion. So that's where I'd suggest the hold if you've held this far. But yeah, that's that. Piakura, the worry with him, guys, is he still hasn't been seen around training and the like. So as I spoke about at the start of the video, he's someone that you can sell if you want, but do expect that if he comes in and plays, that he'll be able to get, he's got movement. He got the head injury, he copped the knee injury at the end there. But he covered center for most of that. Sorry, he played 76 minutes. He got the ankle injury at training that week after. But yeah, playing at center against that Isaac Tungo and the like, that I think they can get closer to that 40 points, which is what you saw against the Rabbitohs with a few tackle breaks, similar tackle numbers there, run meters around the 100. And if that's the case, he's probably got 10 points of value. So that's the main reason I've been holding personally. But if he's not actually going to play for another couple of weeks, then he's got buy around 13. Like, do you actually need to hold him? A lot of people still are. 40% of the top 1,000, top 5,000. Either way, hold or sell is going to be fine for him. Danny Levi, I think he's in that same boat. Hold or sell is fine. Has a break even at 28. So if he gets an 18 or 20 again, he only loses a little bit. If he gets a 28, then he's going to hold, which is great. And anything above that, he's still got a little bit of money to make. Probably around, he's averaging 29. He could probably score a 28 to 30 just in tackles, but he just seems to miss so many as well and not running a heap at a dummy half. So he needs to score a try again. He's got 4 out of 6 games. Easily a sell if you want him to be. Tohu Harris, we'll get into a couple of the buys now. Tohu, I think, is a really good purchase, along with Adam Fanua-Blake. Either of those two works out great for you if you want to go for it. He has 4 games out of 6 this year with a score from 60 to 69, which means him priced at 54. If he can continue that up, there's a little bit of cash to be made. He does have a 36 with a HIA game, and then he went off for a bit of a break. He didn't go. He went off a bit of a break for his 60 a couple of weeks ago, but picked up 44 in 80 minutes, only getting 33 tackles in that Rabbitohs game where they smashed them 34-4. They have Dragons this week into Titans, so both those guys are putting up a bit of a fight, and he could definitely still get tackle numbers there, but a terrific try assist, and he's getting involved in that, looking to do that on a week-to-week basis, which is good now. Big run meters as always, good tackle numbers. He'll be 60-odd, 40, depending on how many tackles his team has to make, that's for sure. Joey Tapine is the other option in the mids, in my opinion, guys. Priced at 50 now. Really good score last week, getting 68 in 67 minutes. Obviously, you take away that 10 at the end, and he was sort of a high 50s, which is probably what I expect going forward. And we know that when it gets closer to the bye period, he tends to score really, really well. Last year, you saw through that time and through the back end there, he picked up an 85, a 69 there. In round 19, he got a 60 just before, 43, 75, 51, 40, 51. So he's a little bit up and down for sure before he got that 85 again. And expect that from him. There'll be games where he gets offloads, he gets tackle breaks, and he looks incredible, which is what we saw on the weekend. 2 tackle breaks, 2 offloads, and he ran for 300 meters. So he should be a guy that he gets around that 200 meters gained because he's incredible. And we saw that on the weekend. It was obviously a great base stat game for both teams. And don't expect that longer term, but he'll be great as well. Morgan Smithies, I have to recommend him as a buy because I sold him, and someone else got 22 likes in the YouTube comments too. They're like, can you just please sell Taylor May so he can start to go well like Morgan Smithies did? And I gave him a good laugh. I like that. As soon as I sold, he went 33, 34, then 60 and 61 when those injuries came. It obviously was a little bit unluckiness in there with Horsburgh going down and Hosking having some troubles with injury as well. So Morgan Smithies, I think he'll get closer to 80 minutes on a regular basis and should probably be a 50 scorer from here. Not the 60s we see, but a 50 there. He's getting involved in the running side of it, which he wasn't as much in the first 4 weeks, of course. But yeah, there you go. Some good scores from him, and I think he will continue that, but be aware of their bye period for sure. Double Morgan Smithies, how good. And then the last one then, Trey Fuller. Yeah, so he actually still hasn't been put into the app yet. So I'm not sure what he'll be priced at, but he's got a 53 in 47 minutes in round 25 last year. And I think they'll price him not exactly according to 53, but I do think they'll give him like a 400k or something like that, which would be a little bit frustrating for sure. But it's definitely not the worst in the world if he was to be that. We know he can score really well. And if he gets somewhere good and closer to the 350 and below range, I think he's probably closer to a buy. The way that team is set up now with Hammer being out for a month or so, he has a good little run to make money if he's 350k or below. If he's higher than that, I think it's a bit frustrating. So there you go, guys. I'll leave the buy, hold, risk it, sell there for this week. And yeah, we've got the short version to come out later today. We've also got the questions and the Q&A plus the few teams that I'm going to go through as well in there later today. So thanks for being here for this one, and I can't wait to get into those other videos with you, and I can't wait to watch the that Roosters Storm game. Is going to be hectic tomorrow night. So see you later, guys. Have a good one.